Well, here we are for the final league game of the tournament. It may not be one that has any significance in terms of the semi-final lineup, but nonetheless, the motions have to be gone through, and it's a matter of tremendous pride for India to walk out there for their final game, knowing that they can't qualify for the semi-finals, but they've got to do this one for the fans. Namibia too have been trying to imbibe, they've been trying to learn, and here's another 40 overs for them to try and take something forward for what's already been a great story for Namibian cricket. This is match number 42, the last before the semi-finals. And here we are on Cricbuzz Live to look ahead to that and perhaps also to look a little bit at Indian cricket in general. Joining me in the studio from different parts of the world, Dinesh Karthik, Simon Doull. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Hello, Gautam.
Dooley will be beaming after that New Zealand performance against Afghanistan. But DK, I'll come to you first. How difficult is it to be able to walk out of the park? Of course, there's great pride involved for a team like Team India, knowing that no matter what they do, no matter how well they beat Namibia, it's not going to get them a chance in the semis.
I think, for different players, it'll mean different things. So as a team, obviously, they'd want to win. I think they know at the back of their mind that they play half a decent game of cricket, they will win. So they'll just move on and just go through the motions of it. There won't be any, let's say, in many ways, the intensity that you see while you play other nations, you might not get it so much because they know the tournament is done. I'm sure a lot of them have half a mind on their flight back home. These things are very, very normal. You feel that. But at the end of the day, they have a game of cricket to play and an international game of cricket to play. So they'll just play it, go through the motions, not be too worried about the result because they know if they play 40-50% of what their potential is, they'll be able to cross the line.
And Dooley, for India, even when they're not facing each other, New Zealand never end up doing any favors.
Yeah, and look, I've been asked this question a few times in the last few days, actually. If you're asking other teams, and Dick knows that he's been there as well in IPL times, if you're asking other teams to do your job for you, then you're asking the wrong thing. And India asked New Zealand or Afghanistan, to do their job for them that they should have done at the start of the tournament, but weren't quite good enough to do. And, they'll be hurting. They'll feel that this is another tournament that got away from them, another tournament that they will go home slightly disappointed about, about where they finished. But they have to regroup. They've got less than or just on a year to regroup to the next World Cup, and then they've got a 50 over one straight after that as well. So there's so many opportunities coming up in the next little while to see India progress maybe a little bit further than the group stages. And they just need to go out on a high tonight. And New Zealand have, I just keep doing the things I think we sometimes expect them to do, but very little or very few people think they will do.
And yet it's one of those things, DK, it's a team that even when they don't do you a favor or come and beat you every time in an ICC event, they're not very easy people to dislike, are they, the Kiwis? Apparently, Dooley's been given a visa to come to India as well, along with the rest of the guys.
Yes, I think, if you do notice that New Zealand are a team which play cricket the right way, you enjoy watching them play. And most importantly, their leader is probably one of the nicest guys going around in the world of cricket. So you obviously have a lot of time for them. You feel they are lovely people. And just yesterday, the way they played, they had a lot of pressure. They knew that India was obviously breathing down their neck. Afghanistan was breathing down their neck. But just a very unemotional, just perfect, clinical, professional, sort of performance, which was, good to see. Yeah, I don't know if I can use that term, but I don't want to use it like a serial killer type. They just come, they know what they need to do, very methodical, don't leave any proof of, having played the tournament, come do a job, and very nicely clinical, methodical, and go through. I think I'm watching too much of Netflix and Amazon with a bit of serial killer going around. So I'm just using New Zealand's performance yesterday, and in many ways they're metaphorizing there. But all said and done, they played a lovely game of cricket. They bowled perfectly. When they came to batting, they lost a couple of wickets. I mean, a lot of teams would have panicked a little bit, especially when you're only playing with 6 batters. They could have panicked, but just the way Conway and Williamson played, I have to, I'm pretty surprised I used that term, but yeah, they're very, very methodical in the way.
I love that. I absolutely love that, dude. You have to respond to DK on that one.
It's true. I mean, we've got a couple of players that might look a bit like that, actually. DK, they sort of spruce themselves up a little bit. I don't know. Look, he's so true, though. It is. It's hard to find those descriptive words for New Zealand sometimes, because they just, time and time again, this happens. And, you know, I mean, at the start of the tournament, I was worried about their hitting power, whether they had enough of what I call the big boy power through the middle. You know, the likes of Mitchell Marsh and Glenn Maxwell, Marcus Stoinis. Australia have got it, and Asif Ali. Pakistan certainly have it, and Liam Livingston and players like that. England certainly have it. I was a little bit worried about whether New Zealand had it, and we saw a glimpse of Phillips and Neesham in the game in Sharjah, and that was sort of, it really propelled New Zealand to a winning score, which could have been quite a mediocre score. So they just keep ticking those boxes. I always thought they had a bowling attack that could win the tournament. 2 quality spinners and 2 quality opening bowlers, and then you throw Ferguson, Milne into that mix as well. So they've always had the bowlers. I just worried about the batting, and time and time again they just keep doing it. And it just shows you, people talk about New Zealand being overachieving, and there's all sorts of things come out about New Zealand, but they just keep doing the things that they do, and they do them well.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have a little chat about New Zealand when we look ahead to their semi-final. But sticking to where we are right now, 42nd match. It's not been a very long tournament, but it seems a while ago when it all kicked off with the qualifiers, and then India, Pakistan, the big one. Let's have a quick look at the points table before we look ahead to today's game, and of course look at Indian cricket in general. The 2 Qs absolutely stand. Pakistan, of course, had it a few days ago, the first team to qualify for the semi-finals, and then New Zealand, after that victory against Afghanistan, getting to 8 points. India can maximum get to 6 points, and that will be their endeavour today. They'll still be in 3rd place. The net run rate, obviously very, very impressive, but now the net run rate, the points mean absolutely nothing. We'll bring you toss news very shortly, DK, but before we do that, do you reckon it's one opportunity to give anyone who's in that squad an opportunity to play the game? Rahul Chahar is the one who comes to mind.
Yeah. I think Ishan Kishan as well. I do think there's a lot of tired bodies, tired minds there, and there is no harm in taking a break in this kind of game if they really want to. I'm sure a lot of them are going to take a break post this for the T20s and the test matches that's going to follow against New Zealand. So I can see a few of them starting here. We saw a few injuries being taken care of. So all those things will come into play. They can obviously give chances and have a look at whoever they want to, and nothing will be said wrong to them, because at the end of the day, they tried hard. They played some brilliant games of cricket against 2 of the other lesser known nations, but against 2 of the senior nations, if I may call them. We didn't obviously stand up to the pressures that were there on that day. But overall, a pretty disappointing campaign from India, and obviously a great opportunity for whoever is going to get a look in today.
I guess that's where the serial killer things comes from, Dooley. Just when you think you've got everything out of the way, they're lurking and they're coming to your country again.
Possibly. I kind of agree with DK though on the India front, whether with their selection policy. Rahul Chahar deserves a game tonight. Do they let Ishan Kishan maybe keep? Do they keep Rishabh Pant behind the stumps? There's changes. If he does come in, does he come in the middle order? He's always, Virat Kohli's always said if he plays, he opens. And that was the situation in that New Zealand game, wasn't it, for India? You don't make changes for change's sake, but there are guys in that bench, on that bench, or have been sitting on that bench, I think, who deserve a game, and there's probably guys in that squad who deserve a rest as well, and I can see them sort of doing that, but still doing plenty enough to win the game.
And just from a toss perspective, we'll obviously bring you the toss news. How mentally do you approach a game like this, assuming that now that Virat Kohli has obviously started winning tosses, if he does win another one here again, DK, try and think of it as, okay, let's put some runs on the board, which is likely to be an absolutely full-length game, or mentally, if you're thinking, can we have a shorter game with no disrespect to Namibia?
I think they'll choose the latter, isn't it? When you were asking, you yourself knew, I thought they would choose the latter, try and obviously play a pretty straightforward game of cricket, finish it as soon as, it finishes. I think if I might use the word, finish the end the misery in many ways. I think it's been a pretty obviously disappointing long tournament. Actually, after the first and second game, they had a week's break, so it's been a long tournament for them. They've been on the road for a long time. The support staff, everybody's moving out, so a lot of people are obviously moving from one to another. So we get the feeling that hopefully India bowls first, and it'll be as short a game as possible. Gautam, do you have anything for us today?
Well, I was just trying to go judge by Dooley's reaction while you were talking there. Go on, spill the beans.
India are bowling first. Virat Kohli has won the toss, and India are bowling first. So just out of the corner of my eye, I noticed he had a big smile on his face as he's talking at the toss as well. And look, it's you still want to do exactly what you have to do to win the game as best as possible. The dew is starting to be a little bit of a factor in this tournament now. We have seen that in the last 4, 5, 6 days. So you still want to do exactly what you need to do best to win the game. And India's strength is bowling first, bowling well, knocking Namibia over and trying to score the runs as quickly as possible. And that's exactly what they'll look to do tonight.
And I think that Scotland game, DK, showed the template that India would have been looking for. I mean, they could easily have chosen the tougher option in a sense, which from a net run rate perspective, mathematically is the more advisable. Put lots and lots of runs on the board like Afghanistan's game and then get them all out cheaply. But again, it was a clinical performance from India on that particular occasion. Same template today.
Yep. We were all hoping for that. One of the advantages if they do finish early is there's no com box. So we're all looking forward to that. So let's just wait and see. Let's wait for things to happen very fast. But you do get the feeling that whatever they score, Namibia, I don't see them scoring way too much because it's slightly hard wicket to bat on first up. So I don't see them scoring too much. And the Indian batters will be trying to finish it off in a hurry and go back to the hotels, pack their bags and get ready to leave.
I can tell you, Dooley, I mean, it's inevitable. Even when you're out of a tournament, you've got to have a bit of a smile. So many of these little memes coming through. And the one that actually got me this morning, I don't know if you got it as well, was a little scenario that said, if India win the toss, restrict Namibia to 80 and chase it in exactly 6.1 overs, ... Then you've got to scroll down. And I'm wondering, hang on, where's this coming from? Then they get to catch the earlier flight.
Is a midnight one? No, there's a 4 a.m. flight. There's always a 4 a.m. flight to Delhi or to Mumbai. So maybe it's that one that they want to get on. Look, and what DK said earlier was right too. I mean, you do get to these stages in a tournament where you're out of the tournament, and you do have that one. You're thinking about family. You're thinking about people you haven't seen for a long period of time. You're thinking about a little bit of freedom, which so many of these players have not had for so long. And I know we can be a little bit flippant sometimes about, look, we're all doing it. We're all in bubbles. We're all, obeying the rules. We're all doing the things we have to do to get through these tough times and allow tournaments like the Indian Premier League to happen and allow tournaments like the World Cup to happen. But it is really tough. And the players have gone through an enormous amount this year. It's not an excuse, but there are reasons around sometimes the way people feel. And everybody handles it differently. We can't judge certain people or teams or anyone for the way they handle it. I think a team like Namibia and Scotland who don't get to do this that often, they will probably relish these situations when they're sort of in this bubble and the team environment and they're all together and they're loving it. But, teams like India who have been on the road for a long time, players who have been in these bubbles for a long time, it is not easy. So you don't blame them if they do have one foot, on the plane home and thinking about family and just thinking about a little bit of rest and respite from the constant barrage of media people like us.
Yeah, it's only fair. It's only fair. We try and see both sides of it, but at the end of the day, you just need to. In 20 years ago, 30 years ago, Sunil Gavaskar used to say the best advice for a youngster: don't read the newspaper. But DK, times have changed. It was probably easy to tell the newspaper man, don't deliver it, I won't see it. But now you've got everything on your fingertips.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, Gautam. I think in today's world, one of the biggest challenges mentally, apart from dealing with a lot of demons that happen within yourself, is dealing with a few demons on social media. And I think it's a very integral part of every person's life. Forget a sports person or a cricketer or any walk of life. social media is a very integral part of your life. There's a lot of good things out there, and there's obviously, along with that, you always get the bad as well. So you need to learn to deal with it. I think for a lot of the young boys, those are the lessons that they learn, thick and fast, if I might say so. Because obviously, as a sportsman, there are some days when things don't go as to plan, and you'll have to face a barrage of unnecessary things on the social media. How you deal with it, how you're able to park those thoughts that you see and read. If possible, it's better to avoid, but in case sometimes some things are not available, then you need to find a way to park those thoughts in a separate place. You need to compartmentalize it in many ways, so that you're able to move on with the next day and do something special for the reason that you've chosen to play the sport. So that's very important that you always have a good perspective around it, figure out where social media is in your life, what's the role it plays, and be very clear as to what it brings to you and your family and everything around it.
Yeah, it's not easy, Dooley, to actually shut out the white noise, call it what you like. People are talking about you, they're tagging you. I mean, literally, there was no way to tag in the past. Now, even if you're trying to avoid something, the people out there are more technologically advanced than I think any of us.
Yeah, well, they're more technically advanced than me, that's for sure. I can post something. I've got to the stage where I can post the odd thing. Look, it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because a lot of the young generation, the young players, and even us now, we're getting used to using social media to our advantage. So you can't have it both ways. If you want to use it to your advantage, you're going to have to now and then put up with the odd, thing on there that is just highlighting a bad performance or a bad day. There's no room for abuse. No, ever is there any room for abuse or of any kind on social media. Those people should be outed, and that people that hide behind their fake names and things on social media handles, they really bug me, to be honest. If you got something to say it. Say it out loud and proud, and be who you are when you say it, rather than hiding behind it. But if you also, as a young player, a young person, a young man, young woman, if you want to use social media to your advantage, then at some stage when you have a bad day, you're going to have to accept that it's probably going to hurt you back, in one way, shape, or form.
Well, let's talk about the opposition. Of course, we'll look at Namibia because there's been so much focus on what a wonderful story it's been. So no matter what disappointment it is for Team India, that learning process, we saw the Scotland team, despite the heavy defeat, they were absorbing every little thing. That little point where the Indians went into their dressing room was such a big moment for them. So we hope Namibia can get that much out of this game. Let's just remind you of their playing 11. They've made one change for the record. And the change that is Jan Froiling comes back into the side. Otherwise, they've kept the group of players who have done so well right from the start of the tournament, the qualifiers. And I think, DK, for them, even more than for Scotland, it's been a moment in the sun under the spotlights that's going to only stand them in good stead.
Yes, I think among the associate nations that have come, Scotland and Namibia being the two who got qualified, I think they've played the better cricket. I think they have learned a lot more. They've had a better run in this tournament. A lot of their batters have done well. Their bowlers have looked good. David Vesey has been phenomenal for them. They've had a really, really good tournament and a nice memory to take home, which is what you exactly expect when you come to a tournament like World Cup, if you're in Namibia's shoes.
Yeah, I mean, Visa still is a bit of a journeyman around the world, Dooley. But for some of the others, someone like a Jan Nicol Lofty-Eaton, who suddenly emerged as a youngster, is played in the age group format. For players like that, Visa, of course, has been there, done that. But for players like that, it's going to be a huge learning curve.
Yeah, it is. And what I've loved seeing, there was a moment after the New Zealand-Namibia game the other day where Ruben Trumpelman and Trent Boult spent probably 15, 20 minutes together out on the field. And I could see Trumpelman just, doing this and this and asking Boult, and Trent was explaining what he does and how he looks at it. And you just see that a lot nowadays in this tournament, throughout this tournament. I think it's one thing that franchise cricket has possibly done as well. It's meant that players from all nations sort of tend to maybe get on a little bit better. Maybe it's taken away some of that heat from some of the things in the middle as well at times. But I was really pleased to see, whether it be Pakistan or India or Australia or New Zealand, go into the dressing rooms, exchange conversations with the players from Namibia, Scotland, from these the associate nations, and just pass on some of their experience, pass on some of their knowledge, because that's what they're here for. The great thing about Namibia, and whether it be, as you talk about, Scholz and Trumpelman and Lofty Eaton, these guys, they've got another opportunity in 12 months' time, and they don't have to go through qualifying. They're straight into round one, which is the precursor to the top 8 that we know of, precursor to the Super 12. So they're straight in without any qualification, which is just enormous from their point of view. They now know that they have a year and a bit to prepare for another T20 World Cup. And that is enormous for those sides who made it through this time around, because whether it be funding, you know that's the time you need to be off work. You can basically plan for it, all of these things, without having to go through that whole nervous stage of qualifying for another World Cup. So I expect them to be better. There's a couple of sides I expect to be a lot better, and I know we're not really talking about that, but Sri Lanka are another team I expect to be a lot better in a year's time, having come through this tournament with some real stars, some emerging stars as well. So yeah, look out for these teams in Australia next year. Hopefully they will be much better.
Yeah, Sri Lanka also will be in that round one, along with Namibia, Scotland, and the West Indies. Remember, will be part of that, with Bangladesh qualifying directly into the top 8, thanks to their rankings with some of the home series that they won. But coming back to India, their squad, quick look at that. We were hoping the only member of the squad who hasn't got a game in the tournament so far would get a look in, and indeed he has. Out goes Varun Chakravarti, in comes Rahul Chahar. That's the sole change. Everybody else is playing. No room for Ishan Kishan. I guess the one objective, DK, was to make sure everyone at least got an outing. And it'll be important for Rahul Chahar to show his wares with India bowling first.
Yes, I think obviously he'll get a good crack at the Namibian batsman, which is good for him. I'm pretty sure he'll be picked for the forthcoming New Zealand series as well. So he's got a lot of opportunities coming up. Obviously, there are a lot of good leg spinners going around as well. Chahal will obviously be coming back into the team. And so you see a bit of competition there. And both Chahar and Chahal have bowled really well for the franchises over the last couple of years. So they will stake a claim in the upcoming series. But for this game, Chahar is the one who's going to be having the opportunity to play. And I'm sure he'll be doing pretty well for himself. Have to admit that Namibian batsmen would be slightly better players of fast bowling than they could have wrist spin. So you got to wait and see whether he's, looking to get the wickets, which is, I'm pretty sure, knowing him and seeing him and playing him, that is what he exactly looks to do.
Yeah, and that could just be key. We saw Afghanistan v Scotland earlier in the tournament. That was probably the one example of an associate nation dually absolutely bamboozled by top quality spin. They were just blown away that day.
Yeah, exactly. And, if you haven't played a lot of it or haven't not used to it, then that's certainly something that's not going to be easy. And, Chakravarti would have posed just as big a problem for them, I'm sure. But Rahul Chahar, I'm pleased for him. Pleased he's getting a game. He certainly deserves a game. Again, it's the genuine quick bowling. And we saw that with, in round one even, when you had the Dushmantha Chamiras, Karunaratne, when you had... Tuscan Ahmed, these guys, you saw that at times up against quality quick bowling and genuine quick bowling and then quality spin, some of it mystery, some of it not. That's when these associate nations just need to get better. And the more that they play in these types of tournaments, and I'm a big sort of fan of national sides. If you're going to South Africa, maybe you call into Namibia and play a 2020 game. I don't know. If you're going down to New Zealand or Australia, could you possibly go to Papua New Guinea and play a game? I know that sounds a bit far-fetched. Or could Papua New Guinea come to Brisbane and play a game against India? Just a one-off before the India-Australia series, when that next happens. Is there a possibility to lift the status of some of these next-tier nations by playing just one game on the way to a full member country? And maybe that just helps lift their cricket as well. If there's room in the calendar, which there very rarely is room in the calendar, it's something that I wouldn't mind seeing just to help them along the way.
But yeah, the geographical thing makes sense, DK. Even many, many years ago, remember when the teams used to travel by ship, there was the old story of when Bradman and his team arrived, the Invincibles, they had stopped in Sri Lanka. It was just a stopover, but they stopped and played some cricket. And obviously that was remembered even now when you walk to the stadiums in Sri Lanka.
I think I really like Simon Doull's idea because, It's great if you can obviously help an associate nation. Now, any T20 you play is an international match. It's given the international status. So why not? I mean, I'm very, very sure any touring team to, if you go towards the Asia Pacific region, towards New Zealand, Australia, that is, you can definitely play the Papua New Guineas and, help them with, obviously getting better with their cricket. If you go this way, obviously you can, go and play Ireland, Netherlands, whoever they want to, which happens sometimes. Like India goes to England, they do go to Ireland, play a couple of games. If they go towards Africa, obviously Namibia becomes a very good option. And there are other teams as well, but obviously depending on the rankings, who have done well, who have a chance in the next World Cup, give them an opportunity to play against the best, to rub shoulders against the best. And in many ways, the team, the full nation, like you may call it, they also get good practice before playing the proper series, which is going to happen in a week or two time. It helps both ways, and I think it's a very good idea. And I do hope that logistically it is possible, and if they can make it happen, it's only going to help the game of cricket. And anything that helps the game of cricket grow should always be looked at seriously.
Yeah, it might even help tourism, the respective countries. I'm sure people wouldn't mind a trip to Papua New Guinea. I'd love to go to the Wanderers Club in Windhoek. People have talked so much about it. Seems like a nice spot for a game.
Yeah, wouldn't mind that myself, actually, Gautam. If you're on your way over there to do some commentary, let's get a little crew together, eh? Don't mind a Windhoek.
Yeah, but we've actually got a quote, and let's put that up. It's a good time to do that. We know what the kind of help Afghanistan, for example, got from India, and Pierre de Bruyne has said, the Namibia coach, on support from full member nations on and off the field. We respect the opposition, we respect the game. I think that's why the opposition respects us. They've all reached out, not just on the field, but at the hotels. It makes you feel that you belong and you're allowed to compete with these teams. I want to thank them for reaching out to associate teams. They just need that little bit of comfort and feeling wanted. We certainly felt that. And I think this quote, TK, just sums up everything we've been talking about, that yes, on the field, they might get soundly thrashed, but they're fine with that because that's part of the learning.
The world of cricket, I think, has changed now. Post the advent of franchisee cricket, I think the cricketing world has become a very smaller and a very united place, because at some point of time, you're going to be somebody's teammate, roommate over a period of time. And hence, I think there's a lot of love and affection by and large, let's put it that way. So I think it's become a warmer place, the sport. That's why you don't see any of those massive angry fights that used to happen anymore. It's lesser. It's good in a way. Sometimes it's a little bad also. I feel rivalries are very interesting as well. But putting all those things aside, I think all the full nations are making an effort to reach out to the associate nation, make them feel wanted. There are a few talents which obviously can go on to play franchisee cricket somewhere, like the Mark Watts has done really well. Will he get an opportunity anywhere? Or are we going to see, we've already seen George Munzie go out there and play somewhere. So we obviously have these talents and they're all growing and in turn helping the associate nations. But what is nice to see is, and a lot of credit to the full test playing nations, to reach out to them, to tell them where they can improve, to have those conversations. And it's always nice to see at the end of the day, the right sportsman spirit, the right attitude towards playing the sport, and obviously giving love and affection to a certain team which is growing in its stature. And hopefully one day they'll become a full test by playing nation as well. Whether that happens or not, I'm sure the conversations with all these legends of the game that they're playing against will definitely help them improve their own cricket.
Well, one of the legends of the game, who I'm sure Namibia will be trying to imbibe a lot from, will be captaining for the last time. And of course, a lot will be a talking point. It's something he announced earlier, did Virat Kohli. But it's a legacy, Dooley, that he will leave behind. One that he would have hoped to have left behind with a little trophy in the cabinet. But nonetheless, it's the baton that he'll have to pass.
Yeah, it's the one thing that'll probably, I don't know whether it'll haunt him, but it's the one thing he would have loved, to have had a title, a white ball title from an Indian point of view, and have that on his resume as a skipper. He's done an amazing job across a long period of time in all three formats. Winning games overseas has been a huge thing for this Indian team, where, you go back some years and it just didn't happen. It very rarely happened. Sourav Ganguly was able to do it, but this team has won consistently and more consistently overseas than any other team that I can remember, and any other team in Indian cricket history. And that is the one thing that I think Virat will be most proud of. The fact that he competed in all conditions, and he'll continue to compete as a batsman. You know that, and he possibly even, dare I say it, I think we might see Virat Kohli get back to his best, giving away the RCB captaincy and giving away the 2020 captaincy, just taking some of that burden away from him and some of that cricketing burden away. And you look at those numbers are quite phenomenal. That average of 52.05 at a strike rate of 137 is incredible. I mean, it is such world class numbers, and the best numbers in the business as well. Don't forget that they are the best numbers in the business when you played that many games. So, he'd have loved a trophy. Unfortunately, his tenure is not going to end with a trophy. But I think he said at the toss that Rohit's been watching along, for a long period of time now, and it's a fairly easy baton to pass over to Rohit Sharma. So it's a fairly easy decision for India to make. And I think it's the right decision as well from Virat to make on both counts, the franchise one and on the international one.
Just to add to what Simon Doull said, Kohli also said, "It was an honor for me to have led my country. Time for me to create space and prioritize things going forward." And then, of course, he went on to talk about Rohit. We'll continue to being leaders in the team. So that goes without saying that any leader who relinquishes but is part of the team will continue to offer his leadership, much like you do with Owen Morgan, doubtless DK. But just about Virat, the batsman, and the point that he made when he said prioritize things, one of the priorities would be for Virat Kohli, the batsman, to be back.
Yeah, I think what he mentioned more was prioritize his family life, prioritize obviously which format he wants to play more. And, after not being a captain, I think he can afford to take a few breaks in between series as well. I think his body's been through a lot. He's somebody who pushes much more than a lot of others who play on the field. So obviously he's going through a lot. And, I think he needs a mental break at times, because I think he's been going for far too long at a speed that no one else has been going at. So I think his body is telling him at this point of time, along with his mind, and I'm pretty sure his wife as well, take a break, stay at home, see what it feels like, and then you can continue again. Because I think somewhere when you're on the road doing so much and handling so much of pressure, being a captain of a country is not an easy job. And of all the countries, being a captain of India is arguably the toughest job. So to be doing that consistently and being on the road for about 5-6 years now, I think his body and his mind needs a massive break, so that when he does come back, I have no doubt that there's nothing wrong with his batting. It's just the pressures of, dealing with all the other things that's taken a toll on his body, and obviously in turn taken a toll on his batting as well to an extent. And when he does come back, he'll be fresh as a daisy, and he'll probably go out there and set the world alight again as he's done over a decade now.
There was just a hint of the new father in Dinesh Karthik talking there. Did I spot that right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm enjoying my time here with my kids. I think it's something that I've been waiting for some time, and for that to happen now, and to be just at home, sometimes doing nothing, and going to the gym going to gym every day is a massive effort by itself. It's not like that I'm very helpful in any way at the house, but just being around the kids, it feels nice. So I guess you guys have all kids, and I'm sure you know how that feels.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things when he says doing nothing, I'm sure he has his hands full, but he makes a good point there. Obviously, Virat was referring to that in terms of prioritizing, but in his own mind, obviously he talks about the balance of it, and as and when he does get back, without the burden of having to make those decisions, he could just be expressing himself much more.
Yeah, just take that burden away. I mean, look, DK's spot on. Captaining any side is tough. Mentally, it's draining on you. But captaining India, it is the toughest job in world cricket. And the reason for that is the passion, the numbers, the television viewing audience, the expectation that you will be the best team and the best player. And that is, quantified by 1 billion and some people. And so it is an enormous responsibility to just leave a couple of those jobs on the sideline and become Virat Kohli the best batsman again. That will just ease things off. And I totally also agree with what DK said. He'll be able to miss a T20 series now and then and not feel bad about it, not feel like, because knowing Virat just a little bit, when he misses out on a T20 series, I think he feels bad about letting the team down. And he'll be able to do that now and prepare for a test series or prepare for a 50-over series without feeling bad, without feeling like I'm letting the team down or I should be there to captain. This is my side. And he's always felt this is my side. I should be there to captain them. And he can do that quite freely now and miss a tour. He might miss a tour somewhere to New Zealand or to Bangladesh or to a tour somewhere and just not feel so bad about it. I think it'll do him the world of good.
Yeah. So talk about passing the baton. You've experienced Rohit Sharma, the captain, DK. Obviously, he'll be relishing this opportunity. We've seen what he's done in franchise cricket. So it's as Simon Doull said, not a hard baton to pass, but he'll know that he has certain responsibilities and certain roles that he needs to step into.
Yes. Obviously, India is a very talented side, but you also have to understand that he's going to start working with a new coach, and that'll take some time to adapt and adjust. And both of them have a role to play. I think their first major challenge would be the T20 World Cup coming in 12 months' time, and they'll have a route map for that and figure out what's the best way and what are the set of players that they'll be looking at, and then move forward. And in the little time that he has led India, he's had enormous success in it, and obviously he is the most successful captain in IPL as well. So he's got the credentials. Now it is time where they've handed over the baton and said, now take it and you run it at your own speed. So it's obviously there with him. He can choose to make the decisions that he feels and play cricket for the moment, the Rohit and Rahul way. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it goes.
Now, DK will have seen this passage absolutely up close, maybe from across 22 yards throughout the IPL. Simon Doull, for you, the evolution of Rohit Sharma, the captain, since 2013, how much has he grown as a skipper?
I think Rohit reads the game beautifully. He's had, for the most part, he's had a brilliant side in the IPL to deal with, which has been great. And with an Indian side, when he's taken that job on, he's a different type of captain. I think he's not as animated by any stretch, but we have seen an animated Rohit Sharma as well in franchise tournaments. So he can be that way. I just think his reading of the game and his reading of his players is very good. His tactical nous of the game, I think, is exceptional. So, yeah, there's no reason why India will not continue to prosper under Rohit Sharma by any stretch of the imagination. It'll just be slightly different, be a slightly different feeling in that dressing room. I'm sure he'll go to Virat whenever he's there and if required. And I'm sure he'll have his own little things and his own little ways of dealing with things in the team that might be slightly different or completely different as well. But that's what you want from a captain. You don't want the same as the last guy. You want something slightly different. You look at what what happened with New Zealand when Brendan left and Kane took over. They're vastly different personalities, but they do have some similar traits.
Yeah, that would be interesting. That's an interesting parallel to draw. But for the moment, we're almost set for play to begin. It's India versus Namibia, game number 42, the last league game of the tournament before we head into the semi-finals. Quick reminder of the toss again. India have won the toss and asked Namibia to bat first. Two things remaining on the show, a little fun with numbers and the joy factor question. What does he have in the final league game for us? And here we have it. What did Glenn McGrath do in a cricket match at Eden Park in 2005 that reminded people of 1981? And something just tells me that I know the answer, but I'm not going to give any hints whatsoever. I can see Simon Doull smiling. The year triggered off something in my head. And maybe you can use Simon Doull's smile as a bit of a hint if you like. Glenn McGrath, something happened, 1981. What did it remind us of? Get your answers in. #Cricbuzz Live. All that remains is for a prediction. How many are India going to chase? What time can they catch the next flight back, DK?
110 is what I would think they would chase.
Fair point, 110, giving them a little bit more than what the Scots got. Even though Scotland the other day, when they were around 81, were looking to get about 110 until they collapsed. So, Simon, what are you looking at?
I'm going to put a 1, because it's Virat Kohli's last game. I'm going to put a 1 in front of his number.
118.
Correct.
Well 118. There you go. Oh, that took a second. Okay, fair enough. We've got 110. We've got 118. Do I think they're going to get more or they're going to get blown away? The introduction of Rahul Cheher. Why don't I be just cheeky and say 99? 99. Almost three figures, but not quite. And we could be out of here in a jiffy. But again, no disrespect to Namibia. We've loved having Scotland. We've loved having Namibia here. And we hope they'll be back even stronger next year. For now, it's a final finale for Namibia. Final finale for India. That's all we have on the show. We'll be back on the 10th over with Cricbuzz Combox. Until then, we'll see you soon on Cricbuzz Live.